Okay, I have it recording. When we're ready to start the meeting, let me know.
Give me 1 sec.
One.
That's not fun. That's not fair at all. Give me a longer sec.
One.
1 second.
Hey,
What?
Kendra. Hey, she has Jack on her wall. All right.
Yeah, I
That-
do.
that- that's how I name my cat, Sally.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
silly
Very sweet.
Sally.
Hmm.
And they're
Yep,
asleep.
I love Nightmare Before Christmas. So that is.
I like that other Christmas movie, Die Hard. It's pretty good.
Me and my husband have such a thing about that one. He says it's a Christmas movie. I say it's not. So
It is. We're guys. It is.
uh, well, it just
And there she
depends.
is. All right. Our chair is here. And
Okay.
right now it
Yes.
is.
Give me 1 second.
Leave at
My notes got all like mixed up, so that's what I'm trying to
Oh,
No
no worries.
problem.
fix my screen.
Okay.
Okay, I don't see anyone else waiting to come in, so that's good.
Yeah, Miriam isn't going to be here. Christopher isn't going to be here. Eli is running late in a
And
meeting.
Angelique?
Angelique, I have not heard from.
Okay. Well, she's probably busy running around getting us the stuff
That's
we need.
for sure. Oh my goodness.
That girl
I'll
can do
message
work.
her.
I can try. Let's see.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to call the order?
Yeah, so
Okay, it's 3:05.
I call this meeting to order at 3:05 p.m. and it's June 5th, 2024. And I want to say that because some of the meeting minutes or the transcripts, I mean, have had an incorrect date on them. And I've been trying to catch that, but I don't always catch it. So I'm going to say the date or try to remember to say the date from now on. So
Not a problem. I'll call roll right now if you don't mind.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, we got Chairman Gish
Here.
and Eli is late. Kendra is present, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Aurora is present.
Yes.
Angelique is not here. Pam is here. And then Gina Marie, here you go.
Maria.
Maria, I'm sorry, Maria.
All
And then
right.
Elsa is not here, right? Okay. And then Christopher is excused, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a quorum. And did you want me to touch base on the minutes?
Yeah,
No,
go
you're
ahead
gonna
and
do the, no, I'm
explain.
sorry. Yeah, the minutes, we're jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
My
we are.
apologies.
Let me get to the agenda first and then we can get to the minutes. And I'm trying to read texts at the same time. So give me one
Okay.
second.
Do what you got to do.
A long
right.
second.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
Angelique is trying to get her hotspot
Oh.
working.
Okay. Wow.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right, so approval of the agenda, and I don't see Counselor Garcia here.
Yeah, as soon as I see them, I'll let them in. I don't
Okay.
see anybody.
All right.
No
Well,
one's waiting.
okay. So maybe I'll text him 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. I should like learn some songs on my guitar and play while we have this intermission.
Or sing. You can just sing, Daniel.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that way they'll play it
part
on,
of
that way
the-
it'll be on Facebook everywhere and
Wasn't
I'll
that
get-
part
It'll
of
hit the
your job
news.
description?
then I'll get a Grammy.
I know, right?
Oh, crap. I'm pretty sure that was part of the job description that you had to sing.
Sing and dance.
Okay. Well, I told the city manager I was gonna go to that Disco Inferno, so I'm worried that they might ask me to dance
Good luck.
for that.
Well, just go ahead and they won't ask you again.
Well, yeah, they're gonna be a little weirded out because I have no problem dancing with a guy. It doesn't bother me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if they can keep up.
Correct.
All right, so I just messaged Councilor Garcia.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go ahead with my plans anyway, and if we have to just skip ahead, then we'll come back to however the way that I was planning to organize it with him present. So I wanted to request to move item 7I and also 7K to follow item 7B. Sorry, my
Okay.
paper's all messed up. So it would read as 7A, 7B, 7I, 7K, and then 7C and ongoing.
Okay.
And if Eli and Councilor Garcia aren't here, then we will just continue with 7A to 7D and then go back.
Yeah, we'll
And-
keep him on a roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Not a problem.
May we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second,
A second.
Second, who second?
Aurora.
Aurora
okay.
did.
Okay, I'm doing that. Okay. Now, do you want me to go on to the minutes?
We need a roll call vote.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry. My fault. Okay.
I'm happy I
roll call vote.
remembered. Sometimes I
My-
forget.
Me too, okay. So Chairman Gish,
Yes.
Kendra,
Yes.
Aurora,
yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Gina, Maria,
Yes.
and there we go.
Well, thank you. Next is approval of the minutes, and go ahead and explain what happened with the minutes and what's going on.
Okay, well, we hadn't finished the minutes. Vicky had to leave for medical purposes at the last suddenly, and I was going out of town, so we didn't get to complete those. So I'm gonna have to work on those. And my understanding also is there's some problems with the transcript, and we're still working on those too. So
Yeah.
we'll bring the minutes to the next meeting, and we'll be ready for that. My apologies, it's on ours.
Thank you very much for that explanation. And next is public comments. Are there any public comments? Anything anyone wants to say on behalf of anyone who can't be present?
Are we considered public?
We can be, yeah.
Yes,
Like if we have an issue that's not really a mayor's committee issue, or if we have an issue that we want to be present as the members of the public, we are members of the public. We are also committee members. So
Yeah, but the issue is about the minutes. I mean, those were yes.
the transcript, you mean?
Transcript,
The
yeah.
transcript.
well,
that's what I meant.
let's be kind. We do have our captioner online, and she's doing their
It was
best. So
Very, very, very difficult to follow.
Yeah.
And it was partial sentences all over the place. And I understand it. It's
It
hard.
wasn't partial sentences, it was sentences that were rearranged. And if
Yeah.
you could figure out how to put them back together, they were full sentences. What the fuck happened?
It was like a jigsaw puzzle.
okay, Chair, you're in charge.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm gonna
So
see that on the
move on,
transcript,
move
right?
on though. Yeah,
Uh,
no, I agree, and I couldn't even use them to make sense of making the agenda, that's why I need them is for my notes. And so I should be able to read through them enough to understand and pull and extract information from it. But I was getting confused and having to do the same thing. So yeah.
But again, also let's all try to enunciate our words, speak slower, so the captioner can
Yeah.
get that quickly because they're only human. And I've taken notes in my life, and if you go too fast, I will miss things too. So
One thing
let's
that I was
do that.
wondering, one thing that I was wondering is, and I know like partly it's the microphone or the clarity of our computers as well. But one thing that I was wondering, and I know that we need to all work on not speaking over each other because I know that might do it as well. Um, but I'm wondering if because normally and we even in this meeting we don't have the link present for someone to be able to view it in a browser, which is what we've been saying we want to do forever. Ever since we got CART, we've been saying that there should be a link provided. We did that in the last meeting. So I was wondering if there was some kind of a glitch happening where that jumbled it more than it would have without that link being provided. It doesn't make any sense, but
It
a lot
doesn't
of
make
things with
sense
technology don't make sense. So
because the captioner typed the sentence clearly,
Yeah.
and then it just got.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Then it went through the process of stamping it into jigsaw puzzle pieces to make it more entertaining for
I mean,
us.
what software does that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was weird.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm making notes of who's attending because it helps me. And also for the minutes because not all the guests end up in our minutes. So 1 second. And hi, Gemini. It's good to see you.
Hi, you too.
And I do want to say, Gemini, you reminded me that for the entire meeting, that all guests are able to speak on the issues that we're presenting on within reason. You know, everyone should contribute as much as possible. But feel free if you have something to share that's important or make a statement, please share that information. It's really critical that everyone be able to voice how they're being affected by things or voice what they find is important.
bet.
So it's an ongoing role, but I almost never say it because I always forget.
Sure. That's okay. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't always have something to comment on, but sometimes I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I always appreciate it when you do.
Thanks.
So next is presentations, and we have no presentation. And then, so we are going to item 7A, the vote for approval of the Mayor's Committee on Disability edits for the CART transcript, and that's what we've been discussing is the issues with the CART transcript, and why there is no transcript in our meeting today. So since I don't see Councilor Garcia, and I have not heard back, the next item that we are discussing, and Eli's not here either, so it would be 7D, follow-up regarding the Santa Fe Fair Housing Ordinance amendments. Was anyone else able to watch the discussion that happened in the governing body meeting on the Fair Housing Ordinance and the process that's taking place, just so I know?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So it was a very thorough discussion. If I remember right, maybe it was just how it felt, but it was several hours. But it was very thorough and it was necessarily thorough. And they did vote to basically table it, but to move it for voting, but to move it to move it back to the Quality of Life Committee and also the Finance Committee, because it had been mentioned that there may be some issues with enforcing it on landlords. I don't remember all the details, but I do have plans of writing to the Quality of Life Committee and also to the Finance Committee to explain how it works for tenants. which is basically, because one of the concerns was units that fail inspection and whether a landlord could still be considered discriminating if they don't fix the units. And in my opinion, as a tenant and as a person on Section 8, usually when a unit fails, that's it. It's not the landlord's fault. It's not viewed as the tenant's fault. And if there was a holding deposit or anything that the tenant placed on that unit to hold the unit, then it would typically be refunded because it's not anyone's fault. It's just a Section 8 policy that caused the unit to fail. So in my opinion, there should be no action taken against landlords if their units fail. It's beyond their control in that moment. And so there was numerous concerns expressed and things like that. So I wanted to just say that, and I don't have to do it as the chair, I can do it as me, just a citizen. But I just wanted to voice that, that's kind of what happened and why it didn't go to vote. They are going to be reviewing it further. So otherwise the discussions were very good. There was a lot of support for it. So it's just continuing. So that's what I wanted to say. And in the packet, I did include the letter that we submitted, and I didn't see that they included that in the governing body packet for some reason, which I never got a response as to why. But that's the letter that we submitted. Pam, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. Did I hear correctly that you were saying when a unit fails? Is that right?
Yeah, when a unit fails inspection.
Oh, fails inspection, like it's condemned or what?
No. So you know how there's inspections for Section 8 units and they have to pass inspection in order to be able to rent?
No, I haven't had that experience.
Okay, well, your units must have passed. So in the last unit that I lived in, just as an example, it almost failed.
Michael's on.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Michael's
Thank you.
joining right now.
Thank you. So in the last unit that I lived in, it almost failed. There was some very minor things that needed to be repaired. And luckily those were able to be repaired very quickly. It was like a plate cover on an outlet, things like that. The back door needed to be tightened because it was loose. And there was a double key lock, which they allowed us to replace because they knew we were moving in anyway. So the unit typically would fail inspection for those kinds of things. But they allowed us to make those repairs and then they passed the unit. So if it's something more than that, that's just really easy to fix, the landlord should not be at fault if their house fails inspection, if there's, an electrical issue, or if there's, something major that's going to cost several $100s or several $1,000s. That's not the fault of the landlord. That's part of the program of Section 8 requiring a house to be, very well maintained. And so anyway, I just wanted to express that's my plan, is to contact the Quality of Life Committee and the counselors to express that's not, and they can put that into the ordinance as well, that, if something is deemed not the fault of the landlord, that then they're not discriminating by not renting to a person on Section 8. So that's all I wanted to say. Does that make sense, Pam?
Yes, but I have lots more questions. I won't take the time here.
That's okay. And you and me can talk as well, because maybe
Yeah.
you and me can talk and we can, come to a conclusion of what to share with the Quality of Life Committee
Yes.
going forward. Yeah. Okay. So Councilor Garcia, it's good to see you.
Oh, Chair Gish, I apologize. I've been in back-to-back meetings all day, and so I apologize for my tardiness.
That's okay. No worries. I'm happy that you can join us. So we were just moving ahead because Eli also isn't here. And he had an item that was before what I was just discussing, which was a follow-up on the city's proposed fair housing ordinance amendments. So if you're ready, we can go to your items. which was 7B, discussion for member of the Mayor's Committee on Disability to participate on BPAC.
Mhm.
And I did have more than that on that item, but because I had a question about the process for finance that we were part of the ordinance, the BPAC ordinance that was passed, was that we would be reviewing budgets in the future. So I just wanted to start that process to start understanding if anything is known, to start understanding how we are going to work together, the BPAC and the Mayor's Committee, for the city, if that makes sense.
Sure. And I could speak specifically to the BPAC collaborative opportunity that we're seeking.
Yeah.
I think you did mention the within your respective committee, there is a stipulation where your committee reviews kind of some legislation that might impact or that might fall under the purview of your community that might have a fiscal impact.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to review things if they fall under if they fall over a certain amount. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so what we can do is, and maybe because I think these are two separate topics, I can, as legislation comes so let's first talk about quickly about having your committee review, have some financial oversight. I can commit from my perspective to, as legislation is introduced, that if it has a fiscal impact and if I feel it might fall within your committee's purview, I can always recommend that it come to this committee per the resolution, per the founding resolution for this committee. But we can also chat offline for strategies, maybe yourself, myself, Daniel, in regards to how to how there's not any gaps, just because sometimes, I mean, we're all human, and sometimes I might think, well, it doesn't fall under the purview of the community, your committee, or vice versa, and we can definitely strategize offline in regards to having your committee have a little more hand on that oversight. So
that would be great. Yeah.
Sure. And so in regards to the topic that's on the agenda, as I've mentioned to you and maybe some committee members in the past, BPAC is, and for those that are not familiar with BPAC is the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the City of Santa Fe. It is a citizen-led advisory committee such as this one. The makeup of the body is one governing body member, a city councilor, is the chair of the committee. There are 2 representatives from each council district, so that's 8 members from the community. And then there is 1 at-large member that can be from the city or from throughout the county. And so right now we are recruiting for 2 District 1 representatives, as one of the District 1 representatives is terming out. So for BPAC, members can serve 2 terms, and then they will their terms expire. And so one of our members, they've reached the capacity of serving as many terms as they could, and then another member from District 1, she is going to be traveling a lot, and she just doesn't want to leave the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee without a representative. So we are going to be filling, and we're currently recruiting for those 2 positions. So that's the makeup of the body. What the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee does is, as you can imagine, anything and everything dealing with bicycle and pedestrian activity in the community. Perfect example is this week, the members of the body are finalizing an update to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee strategic plan. This plan was adopted a couple years ago, and it is basically the guiding framework for the committee in regards to the work that they would like to accomplish. And so this is in addition to the outlined responsibilities through the adopting BPAC resolution. and some of the strategic goals were adopting a e-bike ordinance, which the city did a couple years ago. Another goal was appropriating or having the city allocate an appropriate amount of resources for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure maintenance. And that is a resolution that came before this committee not so long ago. So that's just kind of an update in regards to how the committee works and what guides the work. The committee is also responsible for oversight and reviewing design plans for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in the city at certain percentages. So if those that are not familiar with infrastructure development, there are, for example, 30%, I believe 50%, 90% of the design plan process. So as the process is moving forward, BPAC reviews those plans and provides input into the infrastructure development planning. And then any other organic topics that come up, whether it be through committee members or members of the public. One thing we always encourage is members of the public to participate in the meeting. And I believe your committee is similarly structured in the sense we've broken up into subcommittees where we kind of divide and conquer the work, because we want to ensure that as we're moving forward to get work done, it doesn't fall solely on the committee meeting once a month, because that would take us forever to get work done. So what we've done is we've broken up into subcommittees. We've got the planning and review committee that, as I mentioned, review design review. We've got the policy review committee, which really looks at how BPAC can implement citywide policy, whether it be through resolution, ordinance update, and then the last committee we've got is the education committee. And so what that committee does is they're more of kind of the marketing and outreach committee. For example, they're always, whenever we have the opportunity, we table at community events to educate the community about BPAC and the work it's doing. And so through many of the conversations BPAC has had, we would love to have some type of representation, cross collaboration with the Mayor's Committee on Disability. Now, what does that look like? We want to ensure that we're working collaboratively with you to design actually what that looks like. There were some initial thoughts thrown out. Do we have an assigned member from the Mayor's Committee on Disability as a part of BPAC, which means we would ultimately have to update our resolution to ensure that that is part of the founding resolution that will guide and create that sustainable person on our committee. But as you can imagine, that can be quite some work. And so one way we've thought, well, if we want to go that route, we have the at-large position where we can appoint anybody, and we can work collaboratively with the Mayor's Committee on Disability to collectively identify a person that can fill that at-large position. Now, that is at the committee membership level. There are also opportunities for members, whether it be from this committee or other individuals that this committee might identify, to serve on our subcommittees. Our subcommittees are made up of committee members, as I mentioned, but there also is an opportunity for community members to participate in the subcommittees, which, dependent on the work that is before them, can meet very frequently, such as the policy committee, or not so frequently, such as the design review committee. And then again, based on what work is in front of the committee, I mean, the public education committee has been really active because they really want to get messaging out around not only BPAC, but bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, safety, and maintenance. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity to come before this committee to plant the seed, allow for conversation to kind of spring up, and really just figure out how our committees can work collaboratively together. Whether it be looking at having a person fill one of those membership positions, or have somebody fill a subcommittee position. We're basically want to take the lead from your committee on how this committee feels what it can really ensure that your committee's voice is heard on the BPAC committee. So sorry for being long-winded, but that's kind of the framework, and we want to make sure that whatever this committee decides, we honor and respect that, and we'll figure out how to make that work in the long run.
Thank you, Councilor Garcia. I really appreciate that. And I actually really appreciate the long-winded explanation because it actually clarified a lot of things for me too in a really organized way. And so I appreciate that, because now there's multiple ways that we could all get involved in one way or another if we want to. You know, maybe if we can't go to the meeting, maybe we could be part of a subcommittee. You know, things like that. So I know, Daniel, you had your hand up. I don't know if you still have something.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I was at the BPAC meeting that we had yesterday. We were going over the strategic plan, and the at-large membership looks like that would be the best way to go, because the issues that they're addressing involve people with disabilities, from the integration of transportation within the pedestrian designs and bike paths and things of that nature. Also, there's a section called equity and accessibility in their report card that I think a member of our committee could participate in enhancing what that identifies and what that addresses, and how can we improve in those areas, because we ranked pretty low in those areas. And so an at-large membership committee member should be, for this particular committee, should be that way of going. So you get deeply involved because it's so connected with what we're trying to achieve for the community. Okay.
Thank you for that, Daniel. Pam, go ahead.
I just have a question for Councilor Garcia. I'm a lip reader, and having to hear and read, the captioning is excellent, but I use it when I miss what you're saying. I don't just read it, because then I hear something different. Is there a way for you to show your face when you're speaking?
Sure, Pam, I'm currently in transit to an additional meeting, but once I am stationary, happy to turn on my camera and be able to help you out with that. I sincerely apologize.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm very interested in this subject.
Yeah, and Pam, I will double check the transcripts as well, so that when we get them, I'll make sure that the section was very clear also. And if you have questions, please let me know, because I can fill you in too.
I'm trying to lower my hand, but I can't seem to do that.
It's okay. Eli, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for being late. This is Eli. I wanted to just mention Councilor Garcia and just give another shout out. Thank you for being on the forefront of access, ADA compliance, and accommodations for the city. So just really appreciate you and all your work, and just highlight that and supportive of all the work. And this is a huge opportunity for the Mayor's Committee to work on something this important for the city. So thank you, and looking forward to how we can help support.
And one thing that you and I had talked about, Eli, was that in this interim, before we have something set, that you and me might be able to take turns to join the BPAC meetings. or maybe even attending together. I don't know. It depends on both of our schedules, but I'm definitely interested in that because I think that by continuing to attend the meetings, we might also see where the opportunities lie for our members to participate. And so I also think in the interim, we would have the opportunity to participate in BPAC as this committee. And so yeah, I think that would be helpful to actually make all of this start moving. So however you and me can make that happen, and anyone else, this is open to everyone. It's not just me and Eli, but anyone else that's interested in that. I am noticing that BPAC is absolutely addressing issues that affect people with disabilities in the city of Santa Fe very directly. It's literal physical access. It's, safety, it's transportation, it's means of getting food, it's means of getting medicine. And so I am seeing that it is extremely important for us to be cross-collaborating as much as we can on those shared goals and needs. So Councilor Garcia, I don't know if you're able to speak. If you're not, that's fine. I know you're traveling. So but when is the next meeting for, oh yeah, there he is. When is sorry, the Zoom screen just moved on me. I'm like, wait a minute, he disappeared. When is the next BPAC meeting?
So our next meeting is scheduled for next week, next Wednesday. And so I'm happy to have and invite anybody and everybody to show up. I am a little more flexible with that meeting in regards to there are the formalities we have to follow in regards to the process and procedure. There is opportunity for public comment. But what I'm mean about being flexible is, so for example, if we're talking a specific topic and there are members of the audience that might be a potential expert on the topic, I will allow for a member of the audience to come up and provide testimony. I really feel that if there is value add to a conversation, that we allow for that. I use that as the prerogative of the chair to allow for more folks to participate in the process. So just because an individual, we haven't necessarily determined what more of a kind of formal relationship would look like, I encourage anybody and everybody to show up, because if you show up, it's not going to be like a city council meeting where potentially the only part somebody can participate is in the 2 minutes from the floor. I allow, like I said, should there be a value add, I allow folks to come up and give their input into the process in a respective time frame. That doesn't mean I'm going to allow for somebody to have the floor for 30 minutes, but if somebody can give value add and really help us get to a determination to be made, I'm of the mindset the more the merrier. This is a community. It's a community driven committee, and I will always ensure that the community has a voice during that committee.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we run this committee very similarly, for the same reason that we know we need that input from the community. Kendra, you you have your hand up. I'm losing my voice already.
Yes, Chair. One question that I had for Councilor Garcia is, by any chance, would we be able to get like something in writing to show like what exactly the BPAC, I can never say this correctly, sorry if I'm butchering it, is thinking as to our participation, just so that, it's kind of hard because we get so much information. So to like process it would be really good to have something in writing so that I'm able to read and go back and figure out what it looks like more.
Sure. And what I can do is I can follow up after this meeting. Probably won't be till later on tonight, but I can email Chair Gish. Just kind of what I mentioned earlier, some very much rough framework, but and I do definitely want to emphasize it's pencil framework, not set in stone, not permanent framework. We're just trying to throw out ideas in regards to how could there be cross collaboration opportunities, and how could there be more of a formal relationship, but there is also plenty of opportunity for the informal. As I mentioned, if folks walk away from this conversation and say, yes, I want to be engaged, how do I do that? I mean, if we look at the formal, as I mentioned, there could be only probably one person that would we can figure out how to get in, maybe through the at-large role. And then another would be potentially through looking at a person taking up a position of the district. Then we start thinking of, okay, outside the box, how else can we make it happen? My thought was we can also update our resolution, right? We can say a person from the Mayor's Committee on Disability sits on BPAC. There is also a formal relationship like that with the Public Safety Committee. BPAC has a member on the Public Safety Committee. So that could be another formal way. Again, the sky's the limit. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas, want to make sure that folks know that I definitely am open to any and all suggestions. But probably the most flexible way for folks to be engaged is through the subcommittee process, because we can have plenty of members on our subcommittees, community members. So, but yes, I will follow up with some of the framework I spoke about earlier, but please look at it as a pencil version, and I'm going to follow your guidance on how we can work together.
No worries. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. Absolutely.
And thank you, Councilor Garcia. And yeah, so I'm, you know, I know we've talked about this and it's kind of gone in and out of, you know, being on the agenda, and but I definitely want this to move forward because I'm seeing the value of cross collaborating and being included in your committee and having your committee understand what's going on with disabled citizens, pedestrians, you know, whatever the population is that's being discussed, and how this physical infrastructure is impacting our functioning in the city. You know, whether it's for recreation or, you know, literally to get groceries, you know, and so I think that it's incredibly important. And also just for general awareness in the community. I know people will follow BPAC that won't follow this committee. And so they would also be part of that, you know, and it's kind of an outreach and you know, community awareness issue as well. So yeah, so Eli, you and me need to join the next meeting. Okay.
And
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
And just in regards to location and timing, the meeting is scheduled for next Thursday, 5:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers. And this is where I can work with the BPAC staff liaison. If there needs to be a Zoom link set up, I can work with staff to set that up as well. These meetings, the BPAC meetings used to be broadcast on YouTube, but unfortunately just didn't have the staff capacity to manage that. But that doesn't mean we couldn't look at other opportunities for folks to participate in the instance where they're not able to get to City Hall. So
yeah, I might need that, just so you know. So yeah, I will but I will look at my schedule and see if I'm able to attend in person. It depends on a lot of factors. So I need to see what's happening next week. Right now I'm like focusing on this week and getting through this week. So
understandable.
yeah. So are there any questions or comments or any other feedback or thoughts? No? Okay. So then the next item, and sorry, I'm like shuffling through all of my papers and I really shouldn't be doing that because now I'm getting lost. So the next item, we changed the agenda, so the next item. And it printed funny as well, so it printed I on one page and then the item on the next page. It's really confusing. So review of accessibility and Title II ADA issues proposed in the City of Santa Fe ordinance regarding pedestrian median safety.
Oh,
Um,
is Michael going to talk on that one as well?
yeah,
Yep.
well, we wanted to, I mean, I sent him this already, just kind of as a heads up that we were gonna be discussing this.
Yeah, because I saw a lot of politicians on the median.
Yeah, so so one of the things, the first draft that was viewed, and I don't know if everyone has been following this or not. I followed it because my mom was like, wow, I could get a ticket trying to get groceries to cross the street safely. So, and that was how it was originally written. It was very, very strict that, like, basically if a pedestrian touched a median, they were at risk of being fined. And so, I wanted to include, and I did, in the packet include the red line, updates. And feel free to correct me on the language and anything, Councilor Garcia, because I'm trying to make sense of it all myself. I know that I read through it, and the amendments made by you, Councilor Garcia, are much closer to allowing pedestrian traffic flow to flow as it needs to. But it's still not fully disability inclusive in the way that Title II ADA requires. And so, like, one of the concerns, I'll just go through this. If anyone, I would love to know if anyone else has been following this at all. No? Okay. Gina Maria, go ahead.
I'm trying. I mean, I'm reading the language on here, and it does say more than two from, is that your addition in blue? I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure out
that
the
was
colors.
that was Councilor Garcia's additions, yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
That makes so much more sense. Yes. Okay, great.
So
Okay.
one of the concerns, though, is still during high traffic times, especially, it may take someone more than 2 times to cross the street safely. And they may get stuck in the median. That's just a fact, and it's happened to me. It's happened to my mom. I'm sure it's happened to other people. And I had when I had talked to you, Councilor Garcia, just to give you a heads up of this discussion. I had discussed how the median, and I actually found a handout of this. The medians are generally viewed as safe places for pedestrians to land if traffic starts to flow around them, because otherwise they would be stuck in the street, and that is not safe. The median is safer than the street. So, and so it is concerning. I think for me, the width of the median has to be 36 inches in order for them to not be able to be ticketed. But it doesn't take into account, like I stated, it's I don't think I included this in the packet, and I should have. Physical limitations of other specific disabilities. And I was thinking, I've had friends with cerebral palsy who, walk very slowly, and who take a lot of time, and they will usually cross halfway through to the median, and when traffic clears completely, and then they will go again when traffic clears on the other side. How long that takes is up to the flow of traffic and the time of day. And then if someone tries to cross in a crosswalk, and I'm sorry to say this, but the City of Santa Fe is not always immediate in addressing ice and snow issues or weather issues, and someone might be trying to cross, where the crosswalk is, and find that it's covered in ice, and then find that they can cross at the median where it's not covered in ice because the flow of traffic has, gotten rid of the ice or snow. There's just all these scenarios that I think of when I think of people trying to cross a street safely. And then one of the bigger concerns is that the flow of traffic often when they're turning right on red, often do not stop for pedestrians. And I have seen so many pedestrians and my mom has reported to me having to yell at people in cars to stop for her so that she can cross because they are just going. They're just following the car that's in front of them. And if they're turning right on red, which is when pedestrians cross, they're not going to stop for a pedestrian. They're not even noticing that she's there. And I've experienced it, but she's saying it's still happening. And there are streets that she will not cross because the flow of traffic is too fast and it's too consistent where there's just cars turning and she will get stuck in the street. And so then if that happens, she'll go back to the median because she can't cross all the way back to the street because the traffic is then going. So there's a lot of issues and concerns with regard to pedestrian safety where a pedestrian may get stuck on a median that is less than 36 inches, and it actually is the safer alternative to being stuck in the street. Or trying to cross back or trying to cross in front of moving cars. I mean, it's just a fact. What we can do about that, I don't know. I know that in other places that I've lived, if there was a pedestrian in a crosswalk, the cars had to stop. Even if the light was green, the cars had to stop and let that pedestrian go. And if they didn't, they would get a ticket if they got caught.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs in there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of something my mother used to say when we were kids, and there was a rule like you have to do X, Y, and Z at this time, yada yada. And then she would always say, within reason. Like, who's gonna give a pedestrian that's trying to manage their packages and ice a $25 fine?
Yeah.
Within reason. Can we be reasonable here, people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
Even
you.
ADA uses that word, reasonable.
Yeah.
Accommodations.
And so, and then the other concerns that I noticed pretty immediately is that the amendments made allow for a person who is assisting a person having a medical emergency or for, repairing a car or things like that for the person who's helping, but not for the person who's in the emergency. And so I don't know if there's an ordinance or another rule that says that if someone is having a medical emergency and they're in the middle of the road or they're in a median, that they're not, at fault, that they're not violating this. Because I will tell you that medians to pedestrians are viewed as a safe space. And that is for medical emergencies, for resting if crossing the street. Some of these streets are really long, there's 6 lanes. And a person might need to rest in between crossing the 3 lanes to get across. So I'm concerned about all of that. And especially in the 2-turn time limit that was stated. Because like I said, at 5 o'clock, 5:30, traffic is just going and they really are not looking out for pedestrians. So, Daniel, go ahead.
Yes, I think after we have this ordinance passed, that in addition, we would provide guidance to our law enforcement division, our municipal courts, so that they can understand that they have some leeway that they can practice and reasonable common sense approach to a scenario if someone is given a ticket because they couldn't get across in 2 minutes. I mean, that's something that we need to give guidance to our chief and to the police officers that are going to be doing the work itself. So I mean, maybe I don't know if it's necessary to put it in the language in the ordinance, but but at least council can guide city management on that concern.
Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts about just safe physical access to allow disabled people to travel as they need, without potentially being fined?
I have a
I raised my
amendment.
hand. Yeah, so I haven't been tracking this that closely. But initially I see this as sort of almost like a short-term Band-Aid solution to overall you know, infrastructure and inclusive design for the city, thinking of like things like smart cities. And what we can do to in the future create more accessible for everyone forms of universal design when it comes to crossing sidewalks, when it comes to wider accessible medians, and community engagement and different approaches. So to me, this seems like kind of a short-term thing, but I think there's a big opportunity to think about greater ideas and thoughts around more inclusive design for the entire city. I know this is like kind of out there, it's kind of like high level, but I think this is, again, this is an example of like the symptoms of the city having older infrastructure, some of the oldest in the country, right? And we're trying to make it safe. But again, the opportunity thinking into the future, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, how can we integrate some of those more inclusive design models into city infrastructure and design?
Thank you, Eli. I'm not sure who had their hand up first, so I'm gonna go in order of how I'm viewing it. Gina Marie, you did have your hand up before Eli, so go ahead.
I find it interesting that we have on page 2, C on top, where it's 2B, section B. Any person engaged in law enforcement or rescue activities, including providing assistance to an injured or disabled vehicle or person. Can we put the person before the vehicle, please? Let's say providing assistance or needing assistance or whatever to a disabled person or injured person or disabled vehicle. My proposal.
And Michelle has a question.
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to write down exactly what Gina Maria said. Because, yeah, we can hold a vote to request or advise that it move forward. So person or injured person or vehicle, is that what you were?
Yeah, disabled person or injured person or disabled vehicle.
And that is 7. No, wait, that's CC.
Section 1 CC.
Okay. All right.
No, B, sorry, B, 1 CB.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for catching that. Was it Gemini and then Pam or? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Daniel. Gemini, go ahead.
Hi, I don't think anybody brought this up yet, but I had to step away for a second, so I hope I'm not repeating, but I just want to remind everybody that the U.S. Access Board has made a final rule on the public right-of-way for accessibility guidelines, the PROAG. That final rule has been published, but it's not been officially taken up yet by the Justice Department or whoever has to do it. I can't remember, maybe Eli knows, but PROAG covers all public rights of way and all sidewalks and crosswalks and everything. And there are going to be some very significant changes to the physical aspects of what is supposed to be happening on all of those curb cuts and crosswalks and everything. So I just want to bring that up and recommend that maybe what was the name of the committee that Counselor Garcia is in charge of? What was that again? I'm so sorry.
The BPAC, the bicycle and
BPAC, thank you. Maybe BPAC needs to look at that and make sure that that when you're talking about actual physical accessibility of these spaces, you're looking at the current regulations because they're brand new.
Yes.
It's been just a few months.
Yeah, and the concern of the ordinance that's being discussed at the moment is about existing conditions.
Right.
And the PRORAG would be addressing when we make a modification or conduct a new construction.
Right, that's
So
true, that's true.
we're trying to address, we'll take care of the design in the future, but right now we're looking at existing conditions
Yeah,
that
but
we
you
know
know,
won't be modified.
existing conditions are very, very poor in many areas and need to be
Yes.
addressed. So I think that still is a reasonable recommendation to make sure that everybody's looking at the current version, the new version of PROAG, and making sure that any changes, because alterations are going to require upgrade to the new PROAG. And if something's a general repair and you're just pouring cement in a hole, that's one thing. But if you're having to resurface a ramp or something, that's more than that. That's more of an alteration and needs to be handled as such.
Yeah, it depends on the scope of the work. Yes.
It does, yeah. Sorry, I have to bow out now, but I do look forward to next month's meeting.
Thank you,
Yes.
Gemini.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your work, and I know the Governor's Commission does in general. So thanks so much for everything.
Thank you.
See you next month.
So Pam, go ahead.
This is maybe naive. I haven't followed this in depth, but how is this going to affect panhandlers?
I'm happy to address that. So what's being proposed here is that for medians 36 inches or smaller, that it would prohibit an individual from sitting, standing, or lying on the median, except for the exceptions as noted. So that would prohibit anybody from any activity. As Mr. Lopez had mentioned, there were a lot of folks out yesterday with political signs. This would prohibit anybody from being on those medians.
Equal treatment.
Yeah, and anybody from being on the medians. It now 30 greater than 36 inches. There would be no prohibitions. I apologize, but I'm going to get these numbers messed up. I'm going to give rough estimates, but it's less than 50 medians that are proposed to be impacted of roughly the 500 medians in the city of Santa Fe. So those are kind of rough estimates. I'm happy to provide you with the direct numbers, but I don't have my notes in front of me, but it's less than 50 medians and there's around 500 medians in the city of Santa Fe.
Was there a map that was provided to the public about which medians those are?
There has not been a map yet, as I've seen. During our last committee meeting, as we were reviewing this, I requested that the medians be identified because we had just been given the numbers, the less than 50, the data, but the medians weren't identified. So I did ask for them to be identified, and if they had the capabilities to GIS map those locations. That way the public was well aware of the medians in our community that would be impacted. And That way, again, I want to make sure this is a fully transparent process. So stay tuned. I'm hoping that my request will be met, and we'll have that information next week. And there will be, because this is an ordinance, there will be a public hearing next week during our governing body meeting. And so with that, I encourage anybody and everybody to, if they have any comments or feedback, to provide that, whether it is in person during the governing body meeting next week. You can show up at City Hall, or you can participate via Zoom. And if your schedule does not permit, folks also have the ability to submit written comments to us as well.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I was also thinking, our cross signals are not accessible, so they don't make an audible sound to signify that people can cross safely. And so if traffic is going, you can't, and you rely on your hearing to know if you can cross safely, you're not gonna know. There's like, you're really not. And especially with the cars turning on red and, you know, people running red lights and all kinds of things, you're not gonna know if it's safe to cross. So
Madam,
yeah, go ahead.
may I comment on that? You're absolutely correct in regards to the cross signals that are currently installed. And we were given an update Monday during our Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting that the city is working to change and update all of the cross signals in the city. It is, from what we were told, it's a very expensive process, so that's why they've been slowly rolling it out. But that is in the works. So with that being said, I'll put in a plug. If there are any intersections that this committee feels should be prioritized, please feel free to share that with me, and I'm happy to take that information to the City Council's Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting and advocate on the committee's behalf during that committee as well.
Just off the top of my head, I would say anything that's on a bus line, because they utilize buses, which also of course need to be, you know, upgraded and fixed and added to different routes and stuff like that. But yeah, I think immediately anything on a bus line, anything near a hospital, anything near malls, places where people gather, those I think should be immediate high priority. If I think of anything else, I will let you know. If anyone else has anything to add to that, please say it. Yeah, okay, so I see 3 hands up, and for some reason Zoom is not putting you in order. So I hope, Daniel, you've been paying attention.
Okay. So, am I allowed to go next?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I would encourage that the committee submit support to the ordinance so that when it goes to public comments or public review, that it's understood that this committee supports it, because this is predominantly an issue of safety. It's not about panhandlers. It's not about accessibility. It's more about making those particular medians safe in their use. And then we're going to identify them as concerned areas that we don't want people to put themselves in danger. And so we should support our governing body in that effort to enhance safety overall for the city.
I think though, for me though, when I think of that is, one, how is the median going to be identified to the public that they can't touch it? How are tourists, how are tourists going?
Probably through painting
Tourists.
it, a caution or some form of marking we'll put together, because it has to be something that we have to do, because we don't want people to just not know. I mean, they need to know there's a hazard and that they're aware of it. And then we will put it in a mapping system. I'm sure we'll get there eventually after the ordinance is adopted, and we'll be instructed by council, a governing body, to what the next steps are needed for each department to participate in.
I guess for me, the concern is that if someone is intending to cross the street, however they view the safety issue, because we don't know their safety issue. We
Mhm.
don't know if there's ice. We don't know if there's a hole.
No.
We don't know if there's gravel that they may not, my ankles are unstable. I can't walk on gravel. So, there's things that I may be trying to avoid and may need to use the median to cross.
Yeah, you'll be
Um,
allowed to
yeah.
use the median if in regular conditions. It's just they're not, the whole idea of the ordinance is to prohibit anyone from just standing there intentionally.
So I think that that's the way.
Utilizing the actual intersection is not going to be prohibited.
I'm not
And
necessarily talking about the
the
intersection either.
common
I'm
sense,
talking about people using it to jaywalk. Because it's safer actually in some areas to jaywalk than it is to cross in the crosswalks.
well, we as a city
So-
government couldn't condone
No, I know that
that.
they can't,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that that's just the reality of being a pedestrian in
Yeah.
the city of Santa
And
Fe,
so
unfortunately.
there is some personal responsibility on the public also. We'll do our part, and then we would ask that everyone practice some degree of safety and personal safety. I mean,
So I
that's all we
guess-
can ask.
Yeah, so I guess the question for me becomes more than two opportunities to cross. Because how do you, one, identify that? Is an officer going to be standing there watching people trying to cross for 2 times and then going after them if they don't cross?
No, I
So
don't think that'll be what law enforcement is going to be focusing on. I don't think
yeah,
they'll be
no,
doing
I agree. But it's still written in writing, so that's what I'm saying. The timeline is concerning. Before there was no timeline, it was just being on the median. So it's definitely improved. But I think that I would recommend the language being not necessarily a time, but that the person is intending to cross the street. Like they're intending to be mobile. If that makes sense. Because traffic, you cannot control the flow of traffic when you're a pedestrian. And whether
No.
they stop or not is not up to you.
Okay, well,
So
member here has factored in these concerns and will view what needs to be taken into consideration when proposing the changes. And I'm glad he's here. Thank you, Michael.
I'm getting text messages. It's probably Angelique.
Who is next?
So I guess Kendra, go ahead, and then Pam, and then I will write out what we have discussed in order to share with the governing body. And I want to be very clear, I'm not against this because I have seen people standing in medians and then going and getting money or doing something, whatever it is they're doing, and stepping off the median into traffic. And I know that that's unsafe. I am not opposed to it, but I am opposed to in any way limiting a disabled person from being able to practice what they need to do to navigate the city. And so I'm trying to identify the language with all of us being part of this, so that that person isn't going to be ticketed because they have cerebral palsy and it takes them, 20 minutes for the traffic to clear at 5:30, so that's what I'm sincerely concerned about. So go ahead, Kendra.
The one thing that I wanted, sorry, I did not mean to cover my mouth while I'm speaking so that I can read my lips. The question I have is there going to be some type of education when this happens? Because obviously we do have such a high panhandler population. I've worked with the homeless population in Santa Fe, so I do know this. And then of course, like how Kathleen Chair Gish has mentioned, it is a way for individuals with disabilities to cross safely. And so making sure that they're safe and they know that they're not going to get fined or anything like that is, I just ask for the education part, that it be pretty public and very accessible.
Thank you, Kendra. Pam, go ahead.
I second the idea of education around this issue. Public broadcast, warning everyone. My point here is to report to Councilor Garcia a particularly hazardous intersection that needs coordination with right turns and pedestrian hand saying, go ahead. It is a pedestrian crossing from Rosario Cemetery across North Guadalupe to the mall. The cars come down Paseo de Peralta and automatically turn right. It's almost like that's part of the road. And the light comes on for a pedestrian to cross. So I've been there, nearly killed, because the cars are just coming around that corner going north, and I'm crossing from the cemetery to the mall, and we're all at the same place at the same time.
Yeah, and that's that reminded me as well. In my former city, because there was such high pedestrian traffic. I mean, it was a city, so they often in the high pedestrian traffic areas they would do a four-way stop. So all of the pedestrians would have an opportunity to go, all of the traffic would stop. And we might need to start having some of the intersections that we have here in Santa Fe doing that, in order to allow the pedestrian traffic to flow without risk of being hit. And it is because of the right turn on red issue that we're having, because they do turn into pedestrians and they do not notice that pedestrians are there. So yeah, it's very scary. Eli, go ahead, and then I'm gonna read my notes.
Yeah, I have this is Eli. I have a question and a suggestion at the same time. The question is, what is the time frame for us providing any feedback on this? I'm just catching up to speed. Like, what do we have here? Is it something that we can take a step back and provide written feedback, or is it something where we need to go to City Hall? One thing that just comes to mind is somehow creating a mechanism. So this is the comment now, to include this in the citywide transition plan or something about these intersections, and if there are accessibility concerns or concerns with safety from the disability community, is there a mechanism for them to reach out to Daniel or to reach out to other folks in the city in order to share their concerns with this particular ordinance? So I'm just kind of thinking out loud about some of the mechanisms in order to make sure that we're appropriately accommodating for people with disabilities in the city with this new ordinance.
Yeah, I kind of factored that in my thinking when I heard about it, that it would need to be part of the self-evaluation to enhance program access, and that would be educating law enforcement, maybe how they approach the scenarios, and also municipal court when they receive a ticket and it's a person with a disability or involved in the assistance of a person with a disability, that they practice some common sense in that way, in whether to be punitive or not to be punitive. And that's what I was going to have an open discussion with those individuals as part of a self-evaluation assessment.
How easy is it to access where you go and pay off your tickets for people with disabilities? Is there a bus that goes there? Is there accessible
Those are
sidewalks?
the things I'm going to be looking at. I already talked to the newly elected municipal court judge, and he indicated that they had made some enhancements to be more accessible in the courtroom as well, and also providing communication that's accessible. And he's eager for me to go out there and assess the environment. So I'm looking forward to doing that one.
All right, so my notes are to reword section 1CB to disabled person or injured person or disabled vehicle, in that order. I would recommend, instead of the more than 2 opportunities to cross, I would recommend it being intending to cross. meaning that they're not intending to loiter, I guess would be the word. You know, that they have an intent, that they had or have an intention to cross. If someone has a medical emergency, that would be, I'm getting to that one, so, but that the intention was to cross the street. Or intending, I guess I could say, intending to travel or navigate the city. Meaning that they're not standing in one place.
Chair
Yeah.
Gish,
Yeah, go ahead.
just in regards to the intending to cross, would exception CA cover that? Because the exception is any person legally crossing the roadway. And so I
Yes
think,
and no. I guess it depends on how you view legally crossing. If they were in the crosswalk, then they might be viewed as legally crossing, but if they were jaywalking, they might not be viewed as legally crossing.
Well, they're not.
well, we don't want to, we can't
Yeah.
address jaywalking. We can't say jaywalking is
Right.
legal for
Right.
one group of folks and
No, I agree.
illegal for others. So,
Nope.
so I think so I think because.
No, I think that the two turns still is a problem, because if a person gets stuck in a median because the traffic flow is not braking for them to go, it might take more than two turns because of the red light turners. Because of
Right,
people
but-
turning right on red.
But I keep getting back to the exceptions because we
Right.
can't change the part A that you're referencing is referencing the illegality of it.
Right.
And it's illegal because of X, Y, and Z actions.
Right.
But then we get into the exceptions where it's not illegal if somebody's doing X, Y, and Z. And if I was an officer, if I was representing somebody that got a ticket that was legally crossing the roadway, if it took them more than two times, I would argue they were still legally crossing the roadway. It falls under the exception.
Yep, common sense.
I think the legality part for when the ticket would be issued is that if the officer says this person they're interpreting, they're trying to cross the roadway and as you mentioned, they're being prohibited because of traffic. My hopes are the officer would not ticket them, and that's where we can educate them. If you do want to change that language, I would recommend to provide the language where how you would want to change to, because the section you're referencing is saying it's illegal because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then we have the exceptions carved out, where I think what you're talking about is the exception shouldn't say for two or more, but that's, I guess I would just look for guidance, because as somebody who I'm happy to explore introducing the amendments.
Right.
I just want to be able to carry the message with the concise voice of this committee
Right.
in regards to what were the intentions of the amendment, because if I can't speak to it appropriately during the committee or during the governing body meeting, my colleagues might say, well, no, we can't pass that. So any additional help you can give with it, I want to be able to take that to advocate this committee's voice with a potential amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really greatly appreciate that. So I think for me, it's more putting a time limit on the time to cross because of the red light turners, because they do not stop for pedestrians more often than not, especially on Cerritos Road. Those roads, they're just going. So if someone knows that they have a mobility impairment that makes them walk slower, they're going to stop in the median area, wait for traffic to break, and then go, because they aren't necessarily going to be able to go across in one go. But if the red light turners are going, which they do at 5 o'clock, between 5 and 5:30, they just go, and they do not stop for pedestrians more often than not, they're going to have to wait there in the median for the traffic, for the crossing to be able to go and the traffic to break. And I'm worried that if someone takes more than 2 turns and they're stuck in the road, because we don't have any enforcement of pedestrian right of way when there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, we don't have enforcement of that. I worry that someone is going to get ticketed for that, even when they are legally crossing the roadway. And the reason why is because it could be viewed that they are standing on the median. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and you know, I really wish that I had the map of those 50 medians that were identified. I think that it would help me to understand the flow of traffic in those areas, whether it's a high flow of traffic or just a low area, where someone might not, you know, they maybe have 2 streets to cross and maybe they're not going to stop in the median. But I think roads like Cerrillos Road or St. Francis or Paseo de Peralta, where those are long streets and they take people, the crosswalks are not necessarily accessible, and in the time, they turn really fast if someone has a mobility impairment. I'm worried that they're going to get stuck in the road and then be targeted. I also am worried that there's no exception for people having medical issues or disability needs who are on medians, because someone might have to stop on a median because they are experiencing, you know, breathlessness or a medical issue. But there's no exception for that. So, I mean, I can write this out. I would be more than happy to. But I wanted to bring it up, not because I disagree with the ordinance. I don't. Like I said, I've seen people stepping off of medians in front of cars. I know what's happening here. But I also know that as pedestrians, we view those medians as safe places when traffic is going. And so that's kind of one of the concerns. So I don't know how to address this, but I would recommend that the amendment that Gina Maria suggested be included in the changes. And I do like the idea of educating the public. I do like the idea of having a map to identify which areas this is identifying as unsafe. And things like that. So I don't know if anyone has suggestions of how to continue, that would be helpful. Pam, go ahead.
Did you say yes for me?
Yes, Pam, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. My question, I scanned the ordinance. I had not studied it in detail. My question is there anything in there about political signs or signs held by panhandlers prohibiting signs? It seems to me that that's the difference between someone who is intending to be on the median for political or financial gain reasons, opposed to a person who's trying to cross. Could something be put in there that simply says, no signs can be held on the medians? That means no political signs, and that means panhandlers cannot stand there. I have seen a panhandler in a wheelchair, and as I listened to the discussion about intention to cross, and of course, knowing it takes much longer, a panhandler can get around this by being with walkers and wheelchairs and saying they can't move any faster. And the difference to me would be, are they holding up a sign?
Well, there are separate ordinances pertaining to signs and their placement, and that's a separate one related to, other than what this one's covering, about traversing the median. And so that could be another discussion of another ordinance, because this is not what's being addressed. Those signage, there are signage laws and requirements that are different.
Councilor
Okay.
Garcia, go ahead.
And just before I jump off, I apologize. I got to drive downtown for my quality of life committee meeting. But in response to Pam's comments, that would then get into the issue of freedom of speech. An individual has a freedom to hold any sign that they want, as long as it's, we can't violate an individual's freedom of speech. So I want to ensure that the topic at hand is around ensuring safe access to the medians for 36 inches or smaller. And how do we do that? And I think that's what the topic is. And I appreciate Chair Gish's feedback and others, Gina Marie's, in regards to how do we ensure that if we enact such a law, how do we maintain the ability for folks to access them safely still? And what does that look like? So I want us to make sure that we're not getting sidetracked, because I completely understand where you're coming from, Pat. But the topic at hand is having an individual access medians, because as Chair Gish mentioned earlier, the original proposal was 36 inches or smaller, nobody can be on there no matter what. And that's not safe. You're putting the public, I mean, not only pedestrians, but folks in vehicles in a bad situation if you're prohibiting all folks from being on those medians. So, but sorry, long-winded, Pam, prohibiting signs gets into potential violation of freedom of speech.
Even on small medians.
Well, small medians, you're not supposed to be there. And so that's the topic at hand. And so small medians, they're only allowed to be, an individual is only allowed to be there as they're safely crossing the road in a designated area. Now, jaywalking, if somebody's trying to cross the road and outside of a crosswalk area, that would not be allowed. There are certain exceptions that are allowed for an individual to be on the median for 36 or less. And I think this is where we're definitely, I'm seeking some of your thoughts and recommendations in where are there still gaps? And I think there still are some gaps in regards to some of the language and for the exceptions, because I think the overall intention is to prohibit folks from being on the medians that are 36 inches or smaller, because they're small. It's not, they're not safe to necessarily have folks in the middle of the road on. And then what are the exceptions that would allow for an individual to be there? And as mentioned, it could be a medical emergency. It could be an individual doesn't feel safe to necessarily cross. And so I would say take that into consideration, review it, and whether it be formally recommended by this committee or as an individual, please pass those along to me. To get to Eli's question, the timeline is next week. Next week is when the public hearing will be held.
It's next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday. So that could be a recommendation that allow for this committee to have more time to review it. I'm happy to take that message to the council meeting next week as well. So with that, I do apologize. I wish I can continue the constructive conversation. I love participating in your meetings because you all are such a great body to work with. But I do got to go fight the traffic and find a parking space for my meeting here shortly. So
thank you, Councilor Garcia. We really appreciate you being here and the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all. And I appreciate the work you all are doing. You guys are fantastic, and have a great evening.
Thank you, you too. And I did notice that the captioner says that she needs a hard stop at 7, so I'm working on that. But the rest of our items are actually pretty quick, so I'm not too worried about it. But one thing that I want to do is, do we want to write something as a committee, or are we going to do something as individuals? I'm okay with either way. I'm honestly, we don't, if we want to, Councilor Garcia just said we could ask for our committee to review it. How do you want to proceed?
Yeah, that could be your public comments.
And then that would give us more time to really extract the information.
Yeah,
and
formalize
find
your
out.
thoughts.
Yeah, and get a map, maybe.
And get a map.
Yeah.
And then at least convey to them what is it that you're really concerned with, so that way they know that it's not something nonsensical or something like
Right,
that. That
right.
that you're looking at it deliberately to ensure the safety of people with disabilities traversing that intersection. And
Yeah.
whether it be anxiety or a physical disability, either way, people might need more than 2 minutes.
Right, exactly. So do we want to hold a vote and request that of the governing body for us as a committee to review it formally and provide feedback? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, may we have a motion to approve requesting of the governing body to formally review this median safety ordinance in relation to concerns of this committee?
Who's gonna,
So moved.
who's that?
So moved, Aurora.
Okay, Aurora.
And I'll second it. This is Kendra.
Okay, Kendra.
May we have a
Yep.
roll call vote?
Okay, is it gonna be Chair Gish,
Yes.
Eli, Frescus,
Yes.
Kendra,
Yes.
Aurora,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Gina Maria,
Yes.
and Elsa is not here. Okay,
Miriam isn't here. Yeah.
no, Mary.
Yeah. So, the next item is, review of the mayor's committee priorities. And I just wanted everyone, and I did tell you that, to review them. And also the top 5 priorities. I've gotten good feedback so far from everyone. I don't know if anyone has concerns or anything that they want to add. You're free to do so. The only thing that I did want to add was that I'm okay with all of the edits which are in red. The red is going to be erased except for the need update. That part will stay red. The rest will just be included in a document. And then the only other issue is Eli's item. I did finally receive the doc formats of the prior minutes. And so I'm gonna go back and just literally word for word copy what you had stated about the access and functional needs comment, because everyone keeps asking, what does that mean? But you stated it very clearly in the meeting, and I meant to copy that and I just never did. But I'm gonna go back and just copy it word for word and put that in there. So that's the only change that is going to be made in addition to what's on there. And so if there's not any other further changes, may we have a vote to approve the MCD priorities list and also the top 5, which is part of that priorities list, the top 5 recommendations. Go ahead,
I have a
Laura.
couple of comments.
Okay.
On the top of page 6 in that segment, there's some little grammatical stuff that could be fixed.
Okay. Can
Um,
you read it?
okay, so this is an ADA accommodation need to give alternate safe options to go to that are not communal and enclosed shelters, and a way to keep ESA service animals, eliminate the 2. So maintain separation space and protection of belongings from theft, etc. And then on page 8, that's a duplicate
Okay.
of the one on page 7.
Okay.
And on these, somebody has noted, what does this mean on one of them? This is about those, when Angelique and I were working on those little placards
Yeah.
that you would put in the window of your car, and then on the back side, it would have a
That
little.
one is Eli's item, the disability integrated recovery mitigation. That's Eli's item. So
Wait,
that was
wait,
the one I was going to switch out with what he actually said in the meeting to identify what that means.
I'm talking about private vehicle emergency notification system
Okay.
for people with disabilities, nonverbal people,
Okay.
seniors, and others with health and safety needs.
Okay.
So that, on the second, on the duplicate entry, it says, what does this mean?
I can cross that out because that's, yeah.
Yeah, so the duplicate entry is on page 8,
Okay,
like about midway.
okay.
So anyway, and does anybody want to know what they mean? I mean, does anybody have any question about what that is? I
No.
can tell you.
Yeah.
I think Angelique and them are using it for autism kids,
Yeah.
because we never heard back from the fire
Yeah.
department.
No.
They just did it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Let's see what else I got. Oh, we have questioned this before on page 9, also midway. It says public safety transportation, and it's to think about the dashboard display of the disability parking placard
Yeah.
for those with memory issues.
Yeah.
And the question was, should they be driving
Right. That was Pam's question.
if they can't
and
remember to put up their placard?
right. And I don't even have memory issues and I forget to put mine up. So yeah, it's not something that just, you're busy and you're doing your thing and you can forget really easily to put it on your dash. So I
Yeah,
have to really consciously think about that. But that was stated as a state issue. So we can remove that if you want. It's a state issue.
I think so.
Okay.
And then the last comment I have is on, it's just on the page 10. The fourth one from the bottom. The last line says, Santa Fe Place Mall, and it's the new South Side bus
Okay.
station. It's not an issue for
Right.
the old ones.
Okay. I added that. All right.
That's all I
Are there-
got.
Okay, thank you, Aurora. Are there any other identifiers or anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, may we have a motion to approve the 2024-25 Mayor's Committee on Disability Priorities List, including the top 5, which are extracted from this list, which we identified in relation to the most essential keystone areas. And I'll just read them really super quick. The transition plan for Daniel Lopez, move the Mayor's Committee, ADA Office of Equity and Inclusion as planned, which was to the City Manager's Office, Emergency Management and Planning to make City Hall accessible for accessible civic engagement and website accessibility requirements in accordance with the updated WCAG 2.1 AA requirements. May we have a motion to approve these as amended?
My bad,
Another
can I add
example-
one more thing? On page 9? Sorry.
Is it essential?
Well, yeah, because it's the second one, and it says need interior plans for Southside Bus.
Okay,
Transit
I'll add
Center.
new. Yeah, I'll add
It's
new.
the transit center, not just the bus.
Okay,
So sorry, apologies,
That's okay.
and I move that we approve these as amended.
okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Oh,
Second.
okay, Jean Maria's second. Okay, and Aurora's motion.
Aurora is the editor-in-chief.
I so move.
May we have roll call vote, please?
Okay, hang on just a moment. I'm putting the motion. Okay. Chair Gish,
Yes.
Mr. Frescas,
Yes.
Kendra,
Yes.
Aurora Blick,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Gina Maria.
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you. So after this, we'll work on the strategic plan and everything else, but that's
Yeah, we'll
probably not
talk
gonna
about that.
happen until August because of everything happening in July. So next, speaking of July, is an update on the Disability Pride Month, 2024. Eli, do you want to give a very brief rundown of what is going on?
Yeah, I'll be super quick. So we are planning our Disability Pride Parade. That's going to be July 13th on a Saturday. We're having folks who are going to be tabling show up early around 7:30, and the parade's going to kick off at 9. And we do have a planned raising of the Disability Pride flag, similar to last year. That will be at 10:15. We're going to be meeting at the Cathedral Plaza parking, march towards the plaza, go around the plaza once, and then end the parade at City Hall and have that flag raising. Shortly after that, we'll have a resource tabling fair on the plaza along with entertainment. As we get closer, we'll have more details on the parade. I was able to talk with the mayor and some of his other folks about the parade and making sure that he had confirmed that he's available. He said yes, it's on his calendar. I think he's going to have some questions about some logistics, and we'll be sure to get those details over to him. The other event we're planning for Disability Pride Month in July is also the Accessibility Awards commemorating the Americans with Disabilities Act 34th anniversary, and that will be on July 27th at the Drury Hotel. That will be from 6 to 8 p.m.-ish. We haven't quite figured out the closing time, but it'll be around there. We're just really excited to have our second annual Accessibility Awards at the Drury, which is downtown. And we have 2 Eventbrite pages that are up on that. Kendra, thank you so much for putting that together. And I talked to Kendra a little bit this afternoon about making sure that they are accessible. So we'll be making sure that those go up accessible for screen readers. Other than that, as we get closer next month, we will be sure to share all of the details so that people can plan accordingly. But right now, we've gotten lots of interest because we're pushing for the parade for folks to attend. So we're going to be doing some community outreach. We're going to ramp that up this week, end of this week, to try to get folks more aware of the parade, which will be the first time, as I know, in the state of New Mexico to have a Disability Pride parade. These are parades that have happened in other states, in New York, for example, Illinois, Pennsylvania,
Philadelphia,
yeah, Philly,
El Paso.
Okay, so
It's not a state.
so New Mexico, it's kind of its own state, so for Texas. So yeah, we're just really excited, and we want to really thank the city for being a partner, and like I said, Kendra for helping with the Eventbrite, and Pam, and really everyone here to being supportive. So more to come. This is part of Disability Pride New Mexico, and we're just really excited to be a part of this city, and we look to actually expand to other towns and cities across the state. This is just the beginning, and so we just think we're a city different, and we're the capital city, so let's be the best and let's be the first.
Thank you, Eli. Pam, I need to go because unless it's like really, if it's
Really
something
quick.
that can, okay, go ahead.
An update on when this is going to be officially a 501c3.
It is.
We are.
It's it's done, so if
Yes.
someone makes a contribution, it's to
We have an EIN and everything. Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
a link to money. They have a link
Yeah.
so when you
Yeah,
hit
we
it,
have a
pay.
PayPal, and it's up and running, and we were certified both in the state through the Secretary of State's office and also through the IRS.
Woo.
Yeah, it was quite an adventure, but we did it. So next is, and thank you, Eli. And thank you, everyone. And Pam, we can send you that information. So next is 7H, vote for approval of the Disability Pride Month proclamation. And it is the same proclamation that was written last year, with the exception of 34 years, since it has been a year. And also they had changed it to be in the city of Santa Fe, which I re-added to my original draft. Otherwise it's the same. And so I wanted to just hold a vote that the mayor's committee votes to move this forward to be read by Mayor Weber during our Disability Pride Month parade celebration, proclamation, flag raising event. And so may we have a motion to approve the proclamation.
Gina Marie.
Motion.
Maria. Motion. Who's
I'll
gonna
second it.
Kendra has second. You're slower. Okay, now let's do a roll call. Chair Gish,
Yes.
Eli Frescas,
Yes.
Kendra,
Yes.
Aurora,
Yes.
Pam,
yes,
Gina Marie. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, there we are. And so with that being said, Chair Gish, am I permitted to forward this to the mayor's secretarial staff so they can get it printed appropriately?
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
that way he's aware he needs to read it.
Yes. And
And
I will
hopefully-
send you my draft. I will send you my draft. It's what's in the packet.
Yes,
Yeah.
send it to me and then
Okay.
that way, and also if you want to send me an email as far as, do you want him to put it on governing body meetings so they can announce it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I can,
So
I'll do that. Yeah.
communicate that as an
Okay.
email to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. And just to
thank you,
make sure
Daniel.
that the award, the document itself is accessible. It's been a pet peeve of mine that we send out these proclamations commemorating disability on inaccessible documents.
I'm gonna
You
put
want
that
it
in
in
writing.
Braille?
No, like you literally, it's just an image. Like you
Your
can't.
images, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're
yeah, you want it
images.
to, yeah, okay.
OCR, yeah,
You
yeah.
want it to be text
OCR
reader.
You want it
Yeah.
to be OCR. Oh,
Yes.
okay, I was hoping you were not gonna tell me put it in Braille.
Well,
Holy-
don't give us the idea because I'm not.
No one's asked for it. No one has asked
Oh,
for it.
since you mentioned,
Ah, no.
No, but I
You're not-
encourage anyone who wants a copy of the proclamation who needs it in an alternative format. And if our proclamation is not accessible to them, I highly encourage them to request it from the city to get an accessible copy. There you
Yeah,
go.
I'll read it onto an audio tape or some kind in a sexy voice, and you'll get to have it in that accessible format.
audio tape, what's that?
Oh, well, an audio version. How about that? Ah.
Audio
We
tape.
can go retro.
Yeah,
We
we're
can
gonna
be
do
an
it on
8-track.
8-track.
Oh my God, I'm
I was
gonna put
thinking
it
reel
on
to
a
reel.
boombox and carry it in the parade.
All right. So next item, because I'm trying to respect the
I'm
cart stenographer. Next time, I just want to mention really quickly that we are aware that there were issues with the state of the city address as far as accessibility. The ASL interpreters were off to the side. They were not by the speakers, which is standard etiquette for ASL interpreters to be by the person speaking, especially in public events. And so there was no loop system. There was other things that I'm aware of. And so I'm going to talk about it more in depth in the next meeting. But it also relates to our Nothing About Us Without Us resolution, Eli, where we wanted accessible communication for the city. And that's across the board for every event, for every meeting, for everything. So we'll talk about this more in the next meeting because I think we can really pull these two together and justify why we need this resolution for the city. With using the state of the city address. And also the mayor made some really wonderful promises to address some larger issues with the city, with, city infrastructure and stuff like that. And Title II is one of the largest issues that needs to be addressed. So we'll discuss all that in the next meeting. Next is matters from subcommittees. Are there any matters from subcommittees? No. Okay, matters from staff. Daniel, do you want to
Well,
give us
okay,
a
well, I'm
really brief?
yeah, very brief.
minute?
Okay, well, I'm still working on the transition plan, going through the facilities. The last facility I just looked at was the Water Street parking structure because someone was injured there and walked away from that with telling them that we have to fix quite a few sidewalk issues, and the whole parking lot needs to be repaved. So there's a group of people in the city that are bringing that to the attention of Public Works and other departments so we can decide where funding is going to come from because we're looking at close to $1 million just to fix all of that. So that's going to take some time, but at the moment, whereas that person tripped, we did identify it. We highlighted a cautionary area so that way people can see there's a problem there and avoid it.
And then Daniel, what buildings, just list them, what buildings have you
Okay,
done the
City
transition?
Hall, main library, and the Water Street at this point. The next one will be the GCC or the Geno Chavez.
Genevieve Chavez. Yeah.
And then the next one's going to be the Fort Marcy after that. And I did participate yesterday with the board on the burning of the Zobra, and that I didn't like what I saw, the concerns of accessibility, seating locations. Kiwanis was interesting in their exchange with me. It was I had to be a little more assertive with them, and that because they wanted to put some VIP 5,000 more seats for VIP without a ramp. And I said, what are you talking about? I can afford it. I'm going to bring my wife. She's in a wheelchair. Why am I being told I can't purchase it? Are you segregating me to the other area? Because he was trying to identify where they're going to put people with disabilities away from. And I said, no, this is not going to happen. We need to have something better. And so that exchange is probably going to get the mayor mad at me, but that's okay. but the guy was very wasn't considerate, and so I'm not going to allow that to happen. We're going to press on.
We can
and
discuss that in the next meeting as well,
Yeah.
because I think that we should know as a committee what's happening and being able to
Yeah.
address that as a committee, because we
Yeah.
need to have equal access, and that means equal access.
How about we invite the individual to express how it's going to be accessible?
Yeah, let's invite them.
And
Yeah.
I would ask that you also express your interest in sitting in the VIB section with your mobility devices. And we talked about hearing loops for that. They brought it up. And I think Pam could share her concerns or ideas about a loop system at the Zobra. It might not be a good idea, like you told me, because of the loud fireworks.
Yeah.
I
Well,
explained to,
it's-
yeah.
It's too damaging potentially to the loop itself.
Yeah, and I even expressed that people with service animals, not companion animals, but service animals, that at least 30 minutes before fireworks go off, to make an announcement so that people with service animals can leave, so that their animals are not scared. And that's what we did in Philadelphia.
That's all wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to put that on the agenda next month, and we can discuss that more in depth, because it's such a big event for Santa Fe. There's like 60,000 people that show up for this event.
It's the
So
100-year anniversary.
Yeah, and it needs
And it
to
was
be
interesting how he
accessible.
justified the VIP, because he was saying, well, we're gonna have a lot of older people there. They're gonna bring their grandmas and grandpas, and as he was saying, I go, yeah, they're gonna be in wheelchairs and in strollers and scooters, so they need to get up on the bleachers, and with a
Yeah.
ramp. And so
Yeah.
he kind of bit
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
that's how
thank
it
you.
goes.
We'll discuss that more. The captioner needs to go, so there's no matters from the committee. If there is, please let me know and we'll put it on the next agenda. Our next meeting is Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, from 3 to 5 on Zoom. And with that, thank you everyone for attending. And Dawn, I didn't say hi to you. It's good to see you here as well. So thank you for being here, and thank you everyone. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank
Okay,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
First Zozobra, Daniel.
Yeah, it's over. What's over?
First Zozobra.
Oh, it's over. What about it?
Is this your first Zozobra?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be our first.
Oh, dude, it's wild. It's weird.
I think it needs to be. We have a lot of open space that we need to just look at
Yeah.
creating a place for events of this type,
Yeah.
not just Zobra, but for everything, and
Yeah.
that way we don't have such
They
destruction.
don't do it. Yeah, it's always been a pet peeve of mine. I never had the time to get to it, but
Yeah, but
check out
that's
Zozobra. It's weird, dude. It's
gonna
weird.
be weird.
I don't know. Like every time I see it, I'm like, that's so weird.
But the guy from
Who did you talk to, Ray? Was it Ray?
hang on. Let me